Good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are on the African continent. Africaonline Media Corporation is very happy to welcome you on the show. It is Sunday, the 23rd day of August, the 135th day of the year 2020. And it's been 236 days since this year started. So we have just 130 days to go before the year ends. So please, you're welcome. And on this day in 1990, West and East Germany announced that they were going to reunite and form one country. That reunification, they said, would take place on October 3rd, and it did effectively take place on October 3rd. On this day in 2011, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, well, his enemies overthrew him and took control of the Bab al-Zizia compound where he had been lodged, where he had been, and of course that signaled the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. That is history. On Thursday, Africa's oldest man died. I don't have his name, but he died in South Africa. He was aged 116. Well, the BBC reported that during the week. But on this day, in this moment, at this time, from Washington, DC, on Africaonline Media Corporation, we are unraveling our STEW acronym and one of the other top titles, what STTEW, the TT stands for Telecommunications and Transportation. Are they helping Africa to meet the mission of taking the services they offer to the people who deserve and need them? Have the telecommunications and transportation systems in Africa helped Africa realize its dream of moving people, goods, and services from one corner to the other, or from one country to the other? Has political will been there to offer the proponents of the development of the continent, transport-wide and telecommunications-wide? Have they realized their dream? Have they helped the continent to do what it should do? And in this era of coronavirus and COVID-19, that respiratory disease which comes along with it, have they in this era helped or made things worse for Africa? Maybe in telecommunications, we can say there are some positives, especially now that everything seems to be online. We're doing everything online. Unfortunately, we cannot fly online. Unfortunately, we cannot transport our goods and services online. All the same, certain things are being delivered online, because if you placed an order for something from, say, Yamoussoukro in Upper Volta, or what is it, Burkina Faso, it will get to you when it is mailed, but some plane will have to bring it. That's transportation. So where are we headed to? On our program today, we're going to have Dr. Fomunung as our main guest, but we will have other people coming in, other of our usual participants. I see Professor Agrippa is already there. I see our president is already, our chairperson is already there. And my name is Telecommunications. Good afternoon again and welcome to the show. And we're going to start from our brother, Professor Fomunung. Transport, telecommunications, you are specialists in transportation, but these seem to go hand in hand, or they seem to work together as twins, even though born from different mothers, twins from two different parents. So what do you have to tell us about transportation and telecommunications, especially in this era of the pandemic?
First of all, thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure, sure.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mr. Telecommunications, for this opportunity to share this space with your audience this afternoon. It's actually an honor for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here. Just as you have said, in your introduction there, you have kind of an overview description of what transportation is, which is the movement of people and goods from one point to the other efficiently and safely. So I'm not so much an expert in telecommunications, but we can all see through observation of everyday occurrences that Africa has kind of leapfrogged the telecommunication world, because we now have, even in the villages, we have mothers who are able to communicate with other people, their children, in faraway lands from their farms. So that's a good thing. That's an example of technology, leapfrog. We don't have to go through the process of having, the installation of landlines, and that was very difficult in the past because the infrastructure is kind of difficult. We all remember how it was difficult to actually have landlines in various homes, and that was due to challenges with the infrastructure. So, but luckily enough, we've been able to have this technology, and we've embraced the technologies as the technology has enabled people to come to the 21st century. Everybody, it just actually, it's far and wide. The reaches are far and wide. So, so that's all I can say about telecommunications. It's a good thing that has happened that way, and especially in this time of COVID, where physical transportation has been curtailed. People and family members, loved ones and friends rely on the technology to stay in touch with one another. Especially, we now have things like Zoom and other platforms that enable people to have meetings virtually. So that's a good thing. And it looks like we are lucky that we have this technology available at this time, and it has actually changed the way things happen in Africa. Otherwise, we would have still been mired in very undeveloped or underdeveloped telecommunication infrastructure systems, and that would have hampered some degree. It would have hampered to some degree the exchange of commerce and other things, which are now possible because of this. So, but like I said earlier, that's a different field, although as you mentioned, there is a connection between telecommunications and transportation, because some people always put them together in the same basket. However, when we talk about transportation, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at how can we move people from one point to the other efficiently and safely. And I think those are the two words that we can focus on. Are we doing so efficiently? And are we doing so safely? And I think that's where we have a lot of deficiencies in Africa, and where there's a lot of room for improvement. And it is a combination of lack of resources as well as poor governance that has contributed to the state, let me say the sorry state of transportation in Africa. I've always argued that if you look at the government, their responsibility is just build the roads and get out of the way, and people will develop. Build the roads, get out of the way. And it's that simple. Open up the continent, open up the country, build good roads. Okay, and when we talk about roads, okay, the way the roads are constructed, if you look at a lot of the roads, we keep on repeating construction on the same roads because the roads are done poorly, and so that goes to the efficiency. Okay, in order to move goods and people efficiently, we need to have good roads, and so good roads promote commerce, interchange of ideas, and exchange of goods, and it helps to lift the living standards of the community. When people are able to engage in these economic activities, where they can move their products or their manufactured goods from one place to the other and engage in commerce. Okay, it tends to lift the standard of living of people. It expands the tax base, which can be used to improve schools and hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, you can also add to what I just said earlier, you know, what do people need? Water, energy, and transportation. If the governments can provide those and just get out of the way, people will actually take it upon themselves. They will engage in these activities that will make their lives better.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for that. And that said, we realize that Africa remains almost where it was 60, 50 years ago at independence. Yeah. The roads have not improved much. The seaports have not been improved. The airports, most African countries still have airports only in their capital cities. And then, of course, this greatly hampers the movement of people, goods, and services. So what is holding it down? Is it just government, or what about the private sector in Africa? Is the private sector getting involved in opening up the country or opening up the continent to transportation?
If you look at examples in other parts of the world, you know, there are so many models that exist. You can have public-private partnerships, the PPPs, where you have the build, operate, and transfer, where you can engage the private sector to build some of these roads, and you let them derive some economic benefits out of that, especially so. And then after operating it for several years and have realized their investment plus some profit, then they turn it over to the government or the local jurisdiction. So that's another way to kind of to accelerate the construction of roads where the government has limited means. To what extent that is being used in Africa, I'm not very sure, but that's one of the reasons. I think just by observation, I don't think that's going on a lot, where the government can actually engage the private sector who may be able to leverage some resources from somewhere the government does not have neither the capability or the word I'm trying to use here, the trust from the donors. Okay. To be able to do that. So maybe some private sectors, and these private sectors, they could be local or they could be foreign, but they have to have economic incentive to do this. And you know, so you let them come in, construct the road or the bridge, and operate it for a couple of years or several years until they make their money back plus some profit on top of that, and then they turn it over. In the meantime, the community is benefiting from that infrastructure. So it has this multiplier effect already taking place, right? It's a combination. I think it's, I mean, don't get me started here. The thing is Africa, I don't even know where Africa is, if you look at it, is you wonder why, again, like you say, since independence, very little has changed. You mentioned the airlines. Let me just give you there was a proliferation of national airlines, which was like national pride at the dawn of independence. But in most of those airlines, you get into an airplane, you see the first class or the business class is full. African Airlines, full of non-paying passengers. You see, that's what actually broke those airlines. You know, because it wasn't run like a business. No. You have a paying passenger who is sitting in a first class. They already bought their seat, and a government official, a trip comes up at the last minute, and they have to get in that plane. They kick you out. So is it any wonder that a lot of those airlines are folded up? No. So again, that's government policy. Those are some of the things that they did. They ran them as if it was probably national pride. They didn't focus on on these sustainable models that will make the airlines self-sustaining.
Okay, we'll come back to you shortly. Just take a breather and then let us go to our chairperson, Reverend Pam, please, in Houston, Texas, I believe. I hope the hurricane is not coming your way.
It cannot come to Houston because I live here.
Good, good.
So, thank you so much. On behalf of Africaonline Media Corporation, I want to especially welcome Dr. Fomunung. For transparency purposes, you can hear the last name. He happens to be one of my 7 brothers. He's a little bit older than me by 4 years. Annie, thank you so much for pressing your way. I know how busy you are. And I want to welcome Dr. Robert Ford, who was part of Africa's Brain Bank management team in the US. This is his first time on the show. We've had Brother Mister here. They'll be assisting our team on the grounds to implement our project. And of course, my faithful and just, you know, I don't want to talk much about him, but Agrippa, Professor Agrippa, a man that is so passionate about our continent and is doing a lot of work behind the scenes towards this Operation Borehole 55. And the young lady sitting next to him, I would try not to talk much about her because if I do, I will get emotional. But I wish we could clone her, Mrs. Evelyn Mafani, my sister, and our administrator on the continent, who's been working so hard with the team on the continent that will be implementing this project. She's Africa's Brain Bank administrator on the continent. And my newly found sister, Ambassador Lisa Park. I'm so crazy about this woman. She's on fire for Africa. She speaks, I don't even know how many languages, and I'm embarrassed because I don't speak that many. I barely speak my dialect. I do speak it, but I can't keep count of the number of dialects, African dialects she speaks. But Ambassador Lisa, you'll be hearing from her later on. But our co-host, Sister Sylvia, decided to be airborne in a different way. She's on the air, but not on this show. She's actually flying right now. That's why she cannot zoom in. So we miss her. But I have a question for Dr. Wap. Oh, Ni, are you stepping away?
He went for a glass of water, I think.
Oh, okay. So while we're waiting for him to come back, I would like to. Okay, he just came back because I'll talk about. I'll give my own input about transportation and telecommunication later on, as our host said. That is the T in the stew. And that is an acronym I came up with 4 years ago. Yes. You know, it has nothing to do with the tomato and chicken. This is stew, where S stands for social media, T stands for transportation and telecommunication, E stands for electricity and energy, and W stands for water. But I have a question for our special guest, and then we'll take turns going down with our participants. In the 80s, you studied bridge, highway, and tunnel engineering in China. In Africa, as long as I can remember, the Chinese people, your fellow Chinese people, because you are very fluent in Mandarin, and the only difference between you and them is that you are 7 foot or 8 foot tall, and a lot of them are just up to your waist.
I remember I had to buy his stuff when he was going there because he was very tall.
Everybody remembers when you went to China, but and you are not light skinned, you are an African to the bones, but your people are still building our roads in Africa. And if the roads are that good, why is it that we are still having problems? And why can't our people build our own roads? You're not the only African that studied this civil engineering or bridge, highway, tunnel, civil engineering or highways engineering. Why is it that we don't have the brains like yours, you know, scattered all over the world, to get together and give us good roads? That's my question to you. And when you finish, Niason will take the turns with our participants.
You go first.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what I should say. It's also a policy failure and a failure to actually utilize resources that are available. Again, like you have mentioned, we have a lot of Africans who have been trained who have the necessary expertise. But I don't think the various governments in Africa are actually giving them a chance to actually practice their trade. If you see, most of them who have been employed, they have been reduced to maintenance or maintenance engineers, so to speak. They are not given a chance to actually develop their skills. And part of the problem is that we are still, if you look at Mr. Asson said earlier here, that since independence, nothing much has changed. If you go and look at many African countries, if you look at their guides, you know, like design guides and other best practices, guidelines and that kind of stuff, they are still based on the European models, and very little has changed. Meanwhile, the way to get out of that state is to actually utilize local resources that include people as well as local materials. The reason our roads have not been that developed is, again, because they cost so much. They cost so much. Whereas if we're able to utilize local materials that are available locally, study them, characterize their properties, and see which ones can be used, then we'll be using materials that we'll use in constructing roads that will not end up being that expensive. I mean, there are certain things that the road design is just like, I mean, you can't change it that much, but what can really change is the materials that go into those road designs. So I think that's the problem. that's part of the problem, that we have not given a chance to all these engineers that those governments have actually spent money to train. When they come back, they are probably kept in the office to be pushing papers, and instead of giving them a chance to go into the field. I don't know about other countries, but my experience in Cameroon was things were not this way always. If those who are old enough to remember the Public Works Department, PWD, okay, they actually utilize indigenous train, or not indigenous, or people who went abroad, Cameroonians who went abroad studying, and they came back and they were actually put in charge to be able to design and construct roads. And initially with foreign experts, but through that collaboration, there was transfer of technology. So you are able to transfer the techniques and know-how to the local population. So they are able to take over. But what happened several years afterwards, I don't know what time, all of a sudden, PWD was kind of relegated to the background, and we started depending more and more on road construction companies from Europe. So that resulted in a loss of expertise, and a lot of those engineers who were working for PWD were all converted to be working in the office, and so they couldn't practice the trade, and so that resulted in the situation that we have today. We didn't have enough schools to be training enough engineers back then. It looks like the situation is changing now. There are many schools that are coming up training engineers who work locally. And so those are some of the problems. The Africa problems, especially, let me go back and emphasize, we need to come up with our own guidelines that suit the African environment, road construction, bridge construction guidelines, and that kind of stuff. But we don't have, we rely mostly on European models, which have themselves been changed over the years, but we're still doing things. How many big African or large cities have you gone to and you still see huge roundabouts? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's inefficient to move traffic. Okay, but you still see them because that's something, it's a leftover from colonial times. Okay, you see big large cities and you still see very big roundabouts, and they have been expanded and expanded, and it's not efficient at all. So what should you do in that kind of case? It should be a different kind of intersection design that is more efficient to move goods and people more efficiently. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering the question. And I think, sorry, I took out my glasses because I was trying to read some communication here. I know we have our ambassador here. I know we have Mr. Redford. Am I right, Mr. Ford?
Mr.
Yeah,
Ford.
Mr. Robert Ford. And then we have Evelyn, and we have Professor Agrippa. So I'll just take a round now. Let's Mr. Robert Ford. I don't know. I know you're asking, making some requests. We're looking into that. But please, what do you have to tell us on this telecommunications and transportation as concerns Africa?
Well, I would ask a question, but I preface the fact that in the U.S., the way highways are financed is by gasoline taxes and excise taxes on tires. What is the revenue stream, the recurring revenue stream in African nations that would provide the resources to build and maintain highways?
Yeah, let me take a stab at that. Again, that's another deficiency. I'm not sure. I'm not aware. I know, yes, there's not a dedicated source of funding such as the highway trust fund here in the US, where you tax every gallon of gasoline that is sold, a portion goes to roadway maintenance. I think the World Bank recently has tried to implement a system that is similar, where they instituted something like toll gates, and it is mostly for maintenance, not for construction of new roads. So they collect toll on existing roads, and the purpose of that money is to provide a dedicated fund from which money can be drawn down for maintenance purposes. Whether they are doing the maintenance is a different question. But that's the situation right now.
Thank you for the question. We're going to go to Professor Agrippa. You come originally from the continent. You are aware of the transportation difficulties, the telecommunication hiccups. So what is your point of view on that?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Every time we come online, the topic that you guys are bringing are so good. And I thank all of you.
Thank you.
Every week, you guys come up with great, great, great topic. I wish the brain we have here, some of our government will be able to seize it, use it, we will give life to people on the ground. Talking about transportation, 1971, January 2nd, my parents shipped me from Delta State to Kano. It took us 3 days. 3 days, because the road were that bad. To drive on a lorry from Delta State to Kano State. I will never forget that very journey. So what do we do? Till today, I was just in Nigeria last year, March to be exact. And I drove from Lagos all the way to Enugu, through Benin. The potholes in everywhere. I mean, I put my hands in my mouth during that time when my cousin were driving me around. What is wrong with our people? Now, before this very thing, I did a little research. How do we have the highways we have in America? It is the government hands. To be precise, President Eisenhower, in June 29, 1956, signed, a legislation to build a highway that we have today in 1956. What is going to take our government in Africa not doing such a thing up till now? Most of them leave the continent, they travel abroad, they see the kind of road, the infrastructure we have. So I'm appealing to the next generation that when you become a president in your country, I don't care any part of Africa, come up with this good initiative that African Media Online are putting on the table for you. This is your knowledge. We are not getting it from the government. I'm holding every African government accountable. They have failed us. So thank you very much for this very topic. It is a topic that is needed. Now, some of you who know Nigerian Airways, those people who used to work for Nigerian Airways in the early 60s, 70s, they were proud. What happened to that? Today, we thank God we have Ethiopian Airlines, South African Airlines, I think few other airlines in the continent out of the 55 countries we have in Africa. A country like Nigeria, what is going to stop them from developing their road to make sure that we have a national airline for us to transport people? So what if that airline don't want to fly to Nigeria, then what do? You hold people in hostage. Our government need to wake up. Nigeria government need to wake up. We're not going to let them off the hook. Do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Ambassador. I know you've traveled the continent. You know the continent better than most of us here. So tell us, what has been your experience traveling from, say, Liberia to, let's say, Ethiopia, or from Ethiopia to South Africa, and so on and so forth? What have you experienced on your way?
Okay, well, one of the things that I believe it's Dr. Agrippa, I believe he was saying that a lot of Nigerian governments have traveled abroad and they've seen different roads and things. One thing about this country is we are 200 plus years into our independence, and we have the things that we have now. Most of the African countries are only 50, 60, 65, 70 years, maybe at the most, into their independence. So we may need to give them a little bit more time. My experience with the roads in Africa have been experiences. I've been on the road coming from Lagos, going to Warri, or Warri to Lagos, because of what you call that thing, hammer time, where the airport is shut down and you don't even know it till you get there, and then there's no flight, and then there's no transportation by road. You know, they should have some kind of system in place that when it's hammer time season, they should be getting more buses. That's one of the things that I noticed. I'm like, I need to come back home and talk to some bus companies or something where we can get some buses over there, some big Greyhound type of buses over there that will be able to transport people when this season comes along and the airport is shut down because of the fog and things. Now, in Nairobi, the president, Kenyatta, is doing an amazing thing there in Nairobi. Nairobi has been built up. The road, as a matter of fact, from Kakamega, because when I'm in Kenya, I'm in Kakamega. And 2014, we were on the road as they were building it. We're driving it as they were building it. So the road from Kakamega to the airport in Kisumu is brand spanking new. Nairobi's roads are coming along. So again, it does take the government time to grab hold of the vision that they need to be doing something for their people. They want tourists to come in. You know, we have an East Africa visa, which allows us to travel to 3 countries on 1 visa, but you're not going to get any tourists coming when you can't travel by road, or you expect to put people in these little matatus, what we call them in Kenya and Uganda. Uganda is now has now finished a road, a main highway from Entebbe Airport into Kampala, which bypasses all the little cities and, you know, local transportation. I was on it just last summer, and it has a toll. So I'm assuming that once the toll is open and people have to pay to ride on that highway, that toll will be going towards the upkeep of the highway. So I was happy to see growth. I was happy to see things happening. We've been praying for the continent for a very long time, and I'm finally seeing the manifestation of some of the prayers and the things, because again, I was coming just this December from Benin, because I had to fly into Benin and went by road to Warri, and the potholes were not potholes. I don't even call them potholes. I call them craters. I saw a whole entire car with a water tower stuck down in a pothole, and people were trying to rock it out. I'm like, this is just ungodly, you know. Nobody's road should look like that. What does it take to put some tar, some rocks and some gravel and roll over it with a little bit of tar and make the road smooth? Really, it's just ridiculous. But change is happening.
Yes.
Change is slow, but at least things, I have seen things happening, change is happening. And I'm happy to say that I've seen growth and development in all three of the countries. Now, South Africa, that's a whole nother other. It's like going to New York or Los Angeles. I've never been to Los Angeles, but I go to New York often. South Africa is amazing. It's beautiful. The roads are good. The stores. Yes, of course, they still have the shanty towns, but for the most part, you can travel around and you don't have to worry about the bottom of your car falling out on the roads there in South Africa.
Thank you so much. Now, Evelyn, don't say that you came in last and so I'm taking you last. No, it's not so. It's just that we had to go around in one order or the other. Evelyn, I know you also traveled the continent. What have been your experiences as far as transportation in particular is concerned, but also your use of telecommunications? You are of the younger generation, so I believe you do a lot of use of telecommunications.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, indeed. I'm sorry I joined a bit late. And
okay.
Our transportation in Africa is really, as a previous speaker, it's improving, but very slowly. You know, we've all talked about the issue of the road, the water, and air issues, transport. You know, and to add to all this, we also have problem with the vessels. You know, like the vehicles, the buses, you know, the aircrafts, you know, all these things we need to use the different means of transport. They are also a big problem. And when we talk of transport, for me in Africa, my mind goes to a lot of accidents, road accidents that are happening in our continent because of bad roads and also the vehicles. Since we don't produce, we have to import vehicles, buses. We buy 30 years old vehicles, you know, and some governments do not have a policy on what kind of vehicles you have to have. You have to import, you know. So the issue of transport is bigger than we think, and it's really complicated. You know, and as Dr. Agrippa said, it's government. I mean, the road matters the government. You know, the government must be politically committed. If the governments are not politically committed, it's difficult. We talk of private companies. How many African private companies can invest in a road, can take their money and put on the road to wait for 20 years or 30 years to get back that money? Very few. I am right now in Sierra Leone. We have a stretch of highway that we gave to the Chinese, who have invested on the road constructed and the toll gate. But if it was a bid, I don't know if any African company here in Sierra Leone will be able to have such resources to put on the road and wait for 20 years or 10 years to get the proceeds. So these are the kind of problem. It's poverty to comes in. You know, that even the private companies, when they get their money is abroad. It's in banks abroad. It's in stock. They're buying investments abroad. So they don't have the liquidity. So they don't also really invest, even when they have the opportunities. Many do not invest, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. South Africa aside, because South Africa is a different discussion because of we know the history of I don't want to say the whites of the two races, the different races that are in South Africa. So that one is a different conversation. But for real sub-Saharan Africa, it's a big challenge. And we talked about the youths. I'd heard Dr. Agrippa talking about the youths. Maybe the youths can come in future and be able to invest. I tell you, the situation of the youth in Africa is even getting worse. They are worse than their parents. They are worse than the leaders we have now. We're asking ourselves every day, are these the people who are going to take over this continent? They want quick money. They're all scammers. Many of them are scammers. Lots of youths that you can rely on. Many of them, you've heard enough, even in America, our children come there and they are scammers, youths, young children, in their 20s. Are these the kind of youths that can do anything? But if our governments are politically committed, I'm telling you the milestones, we can move slowly and we can achieve a lot in Africa. It depends on the government. We have to push the governments, and I don't know if in this forum, we're able to do that. We may not be able to do this. We need to have these conversations where they will be engaged, in a way we can push governments so that they can hear, we can criticize them and also advise on the table, say, these are the options. This is the way forward. You know,
a lot of goodwill out there, but then are they listening? Whether they are listening or not, we have to make the point.
They are not. The goodwill up there is not. Sometimes we don't sit on the table. the discussions are separate. You know, we criticize the governments, we don't have a place to sit with the government and tell them exactly what they can do because they too don't want to give us opportunity. I think they don't want to give for opportunity.
Okay, we'll take Reverend Solange and then we go around the table again. So let's go to Reverend Solange. I think she's out there waiting at the door. Please unmute yourself and come in. Reverend Solange, are you hearing us?
She's muted.
Oh yeah, let me see.
Reverend Solange. Okay, she's muted.
She has to be unmuted, and I can't do it from my end, so I don't.
No, that's Reverend Solange. Can you hear us? Nelson, let's proceed. When she comes down.
All right. That said, Dr. Fomunung, back again. Transportation is front and center in this broadcast today. So, what should the continent do? There is the AU. It took over from the OAU. Now there is the AU. Ambitious, but they have a 35-year plan. Is that what I think? I think they have a long-term plan. Can long-term plans succeed to change the dynamic today?
Absolutely. Every good infrastructure project begins with plan. You must have a plan in place, and I'm glad to hear that they have a long-term plan. So what they need to do next is just look for those resources. I'm aware that, for example, we've had the concept of the Trans-African Highway on paper for a very long time. Those projects, they need to be realized. Okay, or even looking at the railway system, African countries need to be connected. That's the only way it's going to lift up the rest of the African development. You cannot have disjointed countries because they are too small to be able to have any serious economic impact. We need to open up the continent. And the whole idea of the Trans-African Highway is a very good idea that needs to be actually executed. I don't know what the plan that you are talking about, but I suspect it's a plan that has to do with the opening up of looking at transportation broadly, not just roadways, maybe airlines and seaports, and so that to promote the exchange of ideas and goods among the African people. Somebody, Professor, I think Dr. Agrippa mentioned earlier, something we don't really, which I would like to disagree with slightly. We don't really need national airlines anymore. You can have within the country to have smaller, well-run, efficient airlines to target domestic destinations. But just looking from the outside, I can see what Ethiopian Airlines is doing. They are trying to be like the continental, airline. But what they need to do right now, they have their main hub in Addis Ababa. They need to have regional hubs. We need to have, I think Kenya Airways is doing that to a certain extent. We have, I think South African Airways is a good one too, that have several destinations and some well more rounded. We don't need every small country to be having an airline, a national airline that will be traveling from one African country to the other. Maybe, for shorter destinations, but we need these hubs. We need hubs where, let's say I can fly from here or from New York and I land into one of those regional hubs, not necessarily Addis Ababa, which is closer if I'm going to Cameroon. I could fly if they have a regional hub in Lagos or in Abuja, and then there's a efficient connectivity between there and Douala, that takes me home, by another airlines, which is local, those kinds of things. So that's what we need. Several years ago, I was kind of, many years ago, I think in 2005, I had a conference in Durban in South Africa. It was not really a conference, it was like a workshop, a summer workshop for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think. And it was a long flight, from Atlanta to Johannesburg and then to Durban. And so after the workshop, I was not really looking forward to that long flight back to Atlanta. And so they had some people there from Tunisia. So I said, hey, well, you guys are just here. At least you are going back to Africa. I said, when do you expect to get home? And the guy, he told me, and it was even later than what I expected. And I said, why is that? She said, they are flying from Johannesburg, fly over Tunisia to some Middle Eastern country, and then catch a flight back there to Tunisia. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, so, I mean, there's a need, and that's why, I don't know, it needs to be kind of supported by commerce and exchange of goods. Some countries have certain goods that don't exist in other. African countries need to trade one another so that we can have this exchange of goods that's going to have a reason for people to travel from one place to the other. So those are some of the difficulties that we have. But again, so that those long term, is good to have plans in place. We need to implement it, as somebody has said earlier, I think Mrs. Evelyn, and you know, we lack resources. Okay, so the government, they have a role to play. The governments, I think, together, and it's good that at a continental level, you have that the African Union that is looking at the big picture, and that I hope that they have seen the need to develop this transportation infrastructure, because that's what it's going to need.
Reverend Pam.
Yes, thank you, Nia Song and everybody. I have a few things to say, a few comments, and I'll try, you know, not to cross any boundaries. The first one, to my beautiful sister, Ambassador Lisa. I know you say we should give Africa some time. They've had enough time. I can assure you, even though I was not in this country when the US was 50 years or 60, I can assure you they had roads. Our people are thieves. Again, I don't really like talking about the government, and that's why whatever I get involved with doesn't involve government, because they have broken our hearts. I've always said that, you know, we're not asking them for money, we're asking them to open the gates so we should come home. Our governments are the biggest stumbling blocks, even to citizens of Africa that want to develop even the roads. And I have an example, and I'm not gonna mention the name because it's a distant relative. An entrepreneur that was building a road from the main city into his compound. And he wanted to just build the roads and connect throughout, you know, to where the town ended. And the government stopped him. That doesn't make sense when you talk about enemies of progress. So you drive and then you stop. They used to call it end of town. And then you have to drive through bad roads before you get to the entrance of his compound, which is ridiculous. So they are a stumbling block. But this is what I want to say, a couple of things. And I'll direct one of them to our guest, and he can mention that. Telecommunication has improved on the continent. I remember when we were growing up, you're trying to get a landline telephone, the waiting list was so long, you know, and now almost, 60% or so, I know of Nigerians own cell phones, and most of our people, unfortunately, it's still very expensive. And most of our people have more than one phones. They have at least two because of network, not because they have too much money, but because of coverage and network. So, but our people spend a lot of money. They're addicted to it. You will see people that not paying school fees because they want to pay for their telecommunication, and the telecommunication providers in Africa, they are rolling in cash. I went to one of their office. I won't mention the name. The elevator, everything was marble. One of the owners of the telecommunication companies in Nigeria. But I want to say this about the flights. A few years ago, basically 2010 to 2011, I had the privilege of working with a major American airlines here, their corporate office, I won't say which one. We were trying to get them to do direct flights from Texas to Lagos or Abuja. And during that process, we learned that the intra-continental travels was a problem. One of the government officials was even complaining that just to go from Nigeria to Cameroon, they had to fly out of the country, then to fly back into, and Cameroon is next door. It's basically walking distance. You know, even I remember when we used to do our mail system, you mail, send a mail locally in the same country. In Cameroon, the mail will have to go to France before coming back to the town that you are trying to send it. I'm hoping that things have improved with the email system, internet. A lot of people are not sending packages that much anymore. But so those are the two things I want to mention about that. But I think the one passport, the continental passport, I know right now it's some diplomats that have it, but when it becomes widespread, it would help a lot with some of this transportation and also the continental free trade area. But I had an experience, and Professor Agrippa, unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, the examples I'm going to be giving mostly is from your country because I have not done anything with Cameroon government, you know. But we flew into Yola and we're driving to Borno State. This was not too long ago. And I threw up so much, I thought I was going to die. The road was not a road. It was just a combination of potholes. I had to ask the Lord to please. I said, Father, I'm here on medical missions. Don't let me die in this place. The roads were so bad, I could not stop throwing up. The vehicle had to stop for me to rest because I had thrown up so much and I was weak. This is not too long ago. This is not too long ago. So this is really, really a sad thing. I have a question for our guest, Dr. Wall. I know we talked about transportation and telecommunication, but in my mind, I'm thinking transportation also involves, I mean, telecommunication is also transportation of communication and services. Please correct me, I'm not an expert. This show is unscripted. I personally don't do any research because I like to speak off the cuff, but I want you to kind of weigh in on what I just said about telecommunication being a transportation of communication. Dr. Wall.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like the name indicates, you could put a big picture. You can say communication in general, then you have transportation, and then what is called telecommunication, which means that it's a different kind of communication, right? So, and in that sense, it's just, again, moving something from one point to the other. In the case of telecommunications, it's moving information from one point to the other. Okay, so that's what telecommunication is basically. And I like I said, we don't, you just mentioned the statistics, 60% of Nigerians have cell phones. I don't know what the penetration rate is in the rest of Africa. So we are doing good in that respect, because we are no longer relying on the landlines, which actually, it was difficult to connect people. So we are lucky that we have this technology which is available, and it can reach a vast area in terms of its ability to penetrate, even in rural areas where it would have been very difficult to actually take the lines and the utility lines to all those places. That's why it was difficult. So I don't really have a query so much about the telecommunication aspect of it. I think the continent has actually embraced it. And can they do more? Obviously, and you can see that it is not really government that is pushing that. It is actually the private sector, and there's an incentive to make money. Now, I want to go back to this thing a little bit about the lack of the transportation. You've met several speakers here have talked about the potholes, and that's a systemic issue that has to do again with the way governments operate, and they can certainly do much better, because once they construct roads, they must have a regime in place, and even when they're doing the budgeting, they have to set aside money for maintenance, and that's a failure that cuts across. It is very endemic in Africa, and it is a waste of resources if you think about it. That's a lot of investment, and you are not taking care of the investment by letting the road deteriorate like that. It's a failure to take care of the investment. And therefore, the return on that investment, the purpose for which those roads were constructed, they're completely lost. The safety aspect, loss of life, we cannot even begin to quantify in terms of the impact on the economy and those kinds of things. Those potholes cause a lot of accidents. The way the rules of the road are not very clear. That's something that needs to be improved tremendously. how the enforcement of rules and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
one of the things that is actually lacking too, we have to be able to the absence of presence of needs to be justified by economic reasons. Okay, and that's why I keep on hammering on this with the trade aspect, because why should I travel from Cameroon to Ghana? There must be a reason why I'm traveling from Cameroon to Ghana. I'm going there to conduct business, or from Ghana to Nigeria. There must be a reason why people have to have a reason to move from one point to the other, and that's to engage in economic activities. So at a very broad level, again, those boundaries in Africa need to be brought down so that people can exchange. And then when there's a need for people to travel, then you can justify the construction of those roads. Otherwise, you can't really justify it.
Yes, we have about 5 minutes before the top of the hour, and I was going to go to Mr. Robert Ford. I know you've asked questions about well, not questions, you've expressed your concern about collecting taxes and using them for road maintenance or road construction, but you may not be aware of what operates on the continent. People on the continent, that is governments, they set up toll gates on roads, and you end up finding individuals collecting this money into their private pockets. So it never really gets to government. So the problem is mismanagement, the problem is embezzlement, the problem is lack of faith, lack of trust. So how does the government do that if people put in place to do the work are not serving the purpose for which they were put there?
He needs to unmute. Okay, good.
Yeah,
One comment on telecommunications. I'm assuming you're all aware of the recent deployment of balloons.
You're a little far away from the microphone.
I'm assuming that
Thank you.
you're aware of the recent deployment of balloons in Kenya to provide internet service. This is a product of Alphabet, the parent company of Google, which actually has a spinoff company called Loom. That company has deployed about 35 balloons to cover 50,000 square kilometers of rural areas. However, it's being criticized because the rural areas they selected were already getting internet service. They didn't provide it to areas that had none. But it does pretend to be a future resource in terms of telecommunications and telephony, because you can do voice over internet. You can now have telephone service as well as internet service, and it's all being provided by low-flying balloons. It seems to me that that's a game changer for rural Africa.
Thank you very much. Reverend Palm, we'll come over to you, and then from you to the top of the hour.
Thank you so much. This thing, if one really wants to think about this thing, one can really get upset. So I just want to encourage everybody. Yes, the government should be talking about this issue, but let's forget about them. Only God knows what they are talking about when they meet. Let's forget about them. We, the sons and daughters of Africa, needs to start doing something. We may not have the total package, but let's start from somewhere. Let's forget about them. They are under some kind of, I don't know, it's not regular medical anesthesia. They are under something which I don't understand. That's why I really don't want to talk about the government. Let our brothers and sisters, let's start doing something. Someday, like I said before, they will wake up from wherever they are, because I don't know where they are, and join us. Or the Lord will bring new leaders that care about its people. Because these are the same roads that those same government officials drive through. They drive through the same roads. The only difference is that they may have better cars, better SUVs or 12-wheel or 100-wheel vehicles. So let's forget about the government. All these things we are talking about, the government knows about it. They know what they are supposed to do, but they don't want to do it. So we are at the top of the hour now. So let's talk about a major life-saving projects that we have coming, which is something that those same government should have done, but they have not done it for from the days of John the Baptist. And they will not do it till Jesus comes. So we cannot wait for them. Let's do it. And we are doing it because here we don't just talk, we raise awareness about issues that affect Africa and Africans, seek solutions to those issues and make progress. So we are doing something about it. And that project is called Operation Borehole 55. I'm going to be sharing a couple of screen, you know, and I mean, everybody here has a stake in this. Every single one of us here have access to water. We took a shower, we drank water, drank coffee, drank whatever, you know, some people drank some colored liquids that are not coffee, and I'm not going to go into it. But I will assume that everybody under the sound of my voice have some kind of water. But do you know that there are people that don't have water? There are healthcare facilities that don't have water. And I don't even want to talk much anymore. So let me share this screen. Just bear with me because this is important. This event is coming up on September the 6th. It's called Operation Borehole 55. And we're going to be putting boreholes in the 55 nations of Africa in the rural areas, not the city, because those are the forgotten people. And those people are still human beings. So permit me, I'm going to share a couple of things with you. So just permit me here. Let me share a couple of videos. Wait a minute. I thought I had opened those videos. Give me a second here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, now we do.
Okay. I'm not going to share the whole thing. It's on our website, but I'm going to share a couple of videos so you guys see that this is serious business.
I am Mohamed Juhi Jallo.
Can you guys hear?
That's right.
Who also doubles as
the volume is low.
coordinator for carrying a district. This is
I don't know why.
And Northwest region, and this is carrying a district, Sela Liba Chiefdom, and the community of which I am presently talking. This community is Kabaferi community.
The problem is the volume.
Yeah, I don't know. Just adjust your volume. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm here today to assess how actually they manage to do their day-to-day activities without water, and the difficulties and how they get their water. With me here, I have the in charge, who is a nurse, an SCCHA nurse. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. What's your name? Agnes Kanu.
Okay, team. Let me play another one because this one they're speaking in Creole. So our
facility in Sierra Leone called Mafoe PHU.
This is a different clinic,
which over 6,000 people depend on for their health service. I interfaced with a nurse, the in charge of this facility, who told me that they are challenged with structure, water facility, and many other things. Here is the office of the nurse, whom I interfaced with. She's busy going through her register, and as she earlier mentioned, they are challenged with almost everything: structure, water facility, and many others. Here is the nurse's office. Nurse, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Okay. What is your catchment population for this facility?
Catchment population are
6,855 people. Do you normally have deliveries? How many per month?
I can get them 20, 16, 15, 24.
All right. So the number of deliveries here per facility in a month varies. We normally have 20 deliveries per month. 30, as the case may be, is fluctuates, but we normally have 15, 20 to 30, as she has rightly mentioned. Now we are heading to the labor room to see what are some of the facilities she's emphasized that they don't have. Here is the labor room, and it is crystal clear that they are challenged. This is where we are having these deliveries per month. This is a delivery bed, so tight, and there is no sign. Imagine a place, a delivery room, a woman having bath without access to water. This is very, very, very challenging, and it's disappointing. Really. Nurse, how do you do? I'm not seeing any hand washing station here in this your labor room. There is no hand washing station. Where do you fetch water? At the stream. So these people fetch water at the stream. So how do you normally do in case of emergencies at night? Because normally we have deliveries at night.
We can go there and get some water and do some.
This is challenging at night. Even when there is an emergency situation, they have to go to the stream at night to fetch water, or they send the relatives, or they send porters. But this is the labor room, as you are saying. It's so challenging for them. It's risky. Their cry and their wish is that even though they are having a very tight or small facility like this, they want improved access to water. They want to see water running in their facility. They want to see a functional hand pump in their facility. They want to see this labor room having water running effectively. This is the observational room. The narrative is very, very disappointing. But this is the hard fact of what the people of Mafuri, the over 6,000 catchment people, this is the only facility they depend on. So the people of Mafuri are wishing and crying for support. Nurse, we hope one day this narrative will surely change. Yeah, I am doing this video for the Africaonline Media Corporation. I am just from Sierra Leone.
Okay, team. I wanted to switch because the first video they were speaking.
My name is Stephen Cheboy, a member of African.
Wait, I thought I stopped sharing. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute.
I've shared a video by my community members in.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, you guys have seen that. I don't know if Dr. Ogoji is zooming yet or not. There's somebody with an iPhone, but I'm gonna just. That is 2 of the clinics, just 2. The problem is that because of the lockdown, we are still trying to get customized videos. These are not stock videos. As you can clearly hear, the videos, they are current and they were made for Africaonline Media Corporation. I would suggest everybody go to our website, which I'm going to go briefly, because we have several videos there, not just of healthcare facilities, but of women, you know, going to the stream to get water. I don't know what the men are doing. In this day and age, Ambassador Lisa and Evelyn, our women and daughters are still the ones that are bearing the brunt of all these issues. The men are just sitting there and waiting for the women, exposing the women to go and carry water in those dangerous conditions. So, but that's a topic for another day. Let me just take you guys to the website briefly so that you can see where to donate. Our CFO is on. Reverend Solange, please unmute yourself because you're going to be talking about the money aspect of it. 100% of this donation is going to go to Operation Borehole 55. And after I show the website, I'll hand over to Evelyn, who is our administrator on the continent. And I don't know if Brother Ike is on or Jalo. Those are 2 of the engineers. But our guest also has experience with boreholes on the continent. So I'm also going to let him weigh in on that. But let me just share the website briefly so that, because we're going to upload this on Facebook. We usually do live, but I had to hand over hosting rights to Niason. So just give me a minute. Let me just take you guys to our website real quick so that I'm hoping that everybody on this call is going to donate. So this is our website. When you go here, you see donate, you know, and when you click the donate button, okay, my internet is so we have several payment handles. You can donate here with your credit card or debit card. You can go to GoFundMe. You can Zelle us. You can Cash App us. You can PayPal us. You can wire remit us. Anyhow you want. There's no excuse. So you should be able to give us the money. And if you go back to our home page, you will see what the different sponsorship levels will get you. This is our flyer. These are the different sponsorship levels. It tells you, you know, what you're going to get for your sponsorship. And Africaonline Media Corporation is a 501c3 organization, so all your donations are tax deductible. Reverend Solange, can you please unmute yourself? We need to hear. Okay, you've unmuted. You are our CFO, so let me hand over to you briefly, and then I'll go to Evelyn, I'll go to Professor Agrippa, Ambassador Lisa, and then we'll come back to our guests to talk about the boreholes on the continent. So, Reverend Solange.
Hello, everyone. I know I've been missing in action for some weeks now, but by the grace of God, I think I'm back. Thank you all for all the, I read all the work that has been put in the Project Bowl 55, and I know it's going to be a wonderful success. As the money woman on the forum, all I can say is I'm assuring everyone, because sometimes when there's a major project like this going on, the first thing people said, what is in it for me? What am I getting back? How am I sure they're going to be accountable? Because in the past, people have always had doubts about donating money for worthy causes because of misappropriation of funds. But I can guarantee you with African Online Media Corporation, there's not going to be anything like that. Every donor will get a letter telling them what their money has been put into, what we've done so far. And at the end of the year, you're going to get a letter from the corporation for tax deduction because it's a 501c corporation. So that being said, Reverend Pam has already listed all the means through which you can donate to this worthy cause. So there is no excuse why you cannot donate, no matter what part of the world you are. So we're counting on your support, especially financially, because we know it takes money to move this project forward. So we are appealing to all supporters. You don't have to be an African to donate. Maybe you've heard about Africa, or you just know water is life. And you say, let me do something. A lot of times when we watch the TV, we see all these ads running for different countries about different things. And sometimes we just say, you know what, let me be doing $10 every month. You can also be one of our donors that say, you know what, every month I'm going to be donating $20, $50, $100 towards this cause, because Borehole 55 means we're going to try and reach all the 55 nations of Africa in the rural areas to provide water for healthcare facilities. And we know what that means. That being said, I'll hand the mic over to the moderator, to Reverend Pam or to Niasan.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Solange. That's the CFO. You'll get to see her face next Sunday, but you heard her voice today. Professor Agrippa, I want you to weigh in on this project, and then we'll go to Ambassador Lisa, then Evelyn, and then our guest before we go back to Niasan.
Yeah, thank you again. The only thing I have to say is that this is a project that is needed all over the continent. I don't care whether you're from Cameroon, you're from Chad. If the borehole is going to be built in Southern Sudan, so be it. I still encourage you to donate, because if we save one child in Southern Sudan, that is an African child. Mm-hmm. So that is why this is very important to each and every one of us on the continent. Hopefully, this is not going to be the end of it. We can continue to sing this song until we have enough water for every citizen in the continent. So thank you.
I thank you, Prof. Just so everybody knows, it's an ongoing project. As a matter of fact, this project has been in the queue for 3.5 years. It was not executed because there was no funds. We had people that made pledges. Please, we don't want any pledges. We don't have pledge collectors. Don't make any pledges. Just give us what you can. It's become fiercely urgent now because, as you see, there are healthcare facilities that don't have water. Not even just running water, they just don't have water. Like Evelyn just posted in the chat box, why should the government certify this as healthcare facilities without running water? Healthy women go to the clinic to give birth, and they come back there sicker with infections, and that doesn't even make sense. Water is life. Water is a human right. It's an entitlement. It's not a luxury. So let's do something about it, please. Let's do something about it. Give up your next shoe, give up your next wine, give up your next wig, give up your next outfit, and just donate. You'll get a tax write-off. Ambassador Lisa.
Amen. We've already said everything that we need to do, say about Africa Borehole. All the videos have been uploaded thus far. I encourage everyone to go to YouTube, look at those videos, and start sending them out. I started yesterday after our meeting, and once I found that it's an ongoing project, I started sending out the announcements telling people that this is an ongoing project, so they won't be looking for a solution or the solution at the end of the year. Also, I sit on the Mayor's Commission for African and Caribbean Immigrant Affairs in my city, and my chairman has been waiting for my video so he can send it out to our network. So
awesome.
Sent that out to him yesterday, and then I went through all the videos, and then I labeled which countries they were, and I'm sending them to him because on our commission we have almost all the African countries represented, so that they will not only be able to send out the English, but they will be able to send out the announcement in their particular language, and they'll get to see the video because a lot of them have been here for so long they may forget what home looks like.
Yes.
And the needs. And then I send the link out right under the videos so that they can go right there, see the need, boom, go right to the next link and be able to donate. So, and then also I'm encouraging people not only to look at the video, but to like the video and then share it. Because we don't want people to go there and see that there's only 3 people who've looked at this video and this video has been up for 3 weeks. And they were like, well, if ain't but 3 people looked at it, why should I be bothered? So we have to generate interest in our videos so that people say, wow, okay, a lot of people are going there. Let me see what's going on here. This is a serious business. And that's what we don't want it to look like, that we're not serious. So I encourage people, everybody, to go look at the videos, like the video, share the videos, and donate. If you have to donate every week, I'm not drinking wine or buying shoes or any of those things, but what I am doing is sacrificing and making sure that I'm able to donate something every week so that we can have, by the time we get ready for the fundraiser, we will have a significant amount of money to show that we've been doing something. And like I said, people will see that we're serious about this and they will jump on the bandwagon as well.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Lisa. And she has donated, so have I. You know, I don't believe in asking people to donate without donating myself. So Evelyn, you are administrator on the continent. You've done a phenomenal job, you know, with your team on the ground. I want you to tell us how prepared you are. Ambassador Lisa is clapping for you. The host is clapping for you. You are amazing. You rock. And so tell us how you guys are preparing. And then from you, we will go to Dr. Fomunung.
Yeah, this is Evelyn from the continent. It's some of those videos I personally share them from Sierra Leone. And watching them this evening is very depressing to me. And it's really depressing, even though it's not the first time I'm seeing them. I think the situation for water in our continent is really poor, especially sub-Saharan Africa. We have more than 20 nations, populations over 50% without access to water. You can imagine these facilities, you know, without water. It's really, really sad. So we are pleading to Africans on the continent and Africans in diaspora to please donate generously. On the continent, we have tried to get volunteers from as many African nations as we can, so that if we have activities in those continents, it should be cheaper for us to implement.
Yes.
So we're trying to get volunteers who are experts, not just on water, but on different fields, on different sectors, so that each time we have a program, they should be able to supervise. Right now, for water, we have about 3 engineers who are part of the team.
Yes.
And what we're doing on the continent right now is we're trying to begin to put together policy documents, documents that we're going to, if we have chosen communities where these will benefit from this project, we are going to have policies with those communities for maintenance.
Yes.
It's not just the water. This Operation Borehole 55, it's also going to install solar panels, solar system to drive into the water, into a distribution this thing at the facility. We need to distribute the water at the facility. If we have a borehole without that distribution, it's going to be tough. So because most of these rural clinics, as you've seen, they're located where there's no power, we are going to have solar panels, and the cost is high. One solar borehole with a solar panel complete is between $18,000 for the estimates we got from Nigeria, I think, to about $30,000 for what we got from Darfur in Sudan. It varies where in the location. So the cost is really high to get a complete set of the water and then the panels. So we are pleading to all Africans, please, also as you donate, try to, as Ambassador Lisa said, share the videos, share the invitation, get others to bring, to also contribute, and also join us on the D-Day, the day of the fundraising. On that day, September 6th, we're inviting all of you to join us, even for 1 hour, for 30 minutes. It's going to make a difference. We know we may not be able to get the 55 times $25,000 on that day, but it's a continuous project. So whatever we have will make a difference to those communities. From what you have seen, imagine what a difference it will make in a community if they just get a borehole, if they just get running water in that community. It's life-saving. We're going to save lives. So we call on Africans again, on the continent and in diaspora, please, let's donate. I know the challenge for most of us on the continent is internet, but please join us on that day, even for 20 minutes. I'm pleading for Africans on the continent. Please join us even for the shortest time possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Admin. And like you heard, Brother Agrippa has been working with one of our brothers who's an engineer who puts these boreholes in Nigeria. Hopefully we'll have him on the show next Sunday to come tell us. He actually gave us a discount. His original estimate was 20,000, but he brought it down to 18 something. So, Brother Agrippa, thank you so much. Dr. Fomunung, when you came back from China, you were working in Cameroon, you oversaw the installation of several boreholes in CDC or Del Monte. Please, can you weigh in on this Operation Borehole 55?
Yes, sure. First of all, I think this is a very noble idea. I mentioned earlier that there are three things that the government should provide to its people. That's the necessary infrastructure that covers transportation, water, and energy. Okay, but the government is falling short in many areas, and so the private sector, which Africaonline is stepping up to fill that gap. As far as the technical aspect of this, yes, I did work with boreholes to provide water in a similar kind of situation because I worked for a company that had operations in very distant areas which were kind of removed from the main lines. So we had to provide water to those communities, the workers that lived in that communities, and for the factories. And you know, there were all different sources of water. In many of the places, there were no stream or river, and so we resorted to boreholes. And some of the numbers that I'm hearing right now seem to be, higher than what I expected in terms of the average cost. And so what I would just caution is that we need to be able to justify those costs and explain why it's different from the other boreholes, because there are some other borehole projects that can be done and actually executed at lower cost, just based on ideas that I'm familiar with. So if, for example, it needs to be one that has power, then you need to explain why it needs to have power, because you can also build a borehole which is manual, and that's going to cut the cost tremendously. And the borehole doesn't, if you are targeting, I think the emphasis here has been targeting maybe health communities or health facilities, and you are not really supplying water to the whole village. If that's a bigger scope, and then you are looking at a more elaborate borehole project, But if that's the scope that you want to go with, then those numbers that I'm hearing, that makes sense. But if you are just trying to intervene and make a difference in those health facilities, then something that's adjacent to it, yeah, the health facility can benefit from it, and also the surrounding community can also benefit from it. But it doesn't need to be powered. Okay, it can be manually pumped, and it can generate water, but it's actually going to prevent them having to walk for those further distances. So there are many things that go into it. I'm sure the engineers on the ground know that, how to prospect for water, and also the content of the water. Sometimes you can heat the water, and maybe if there's some chemical infiltration there, you have to abandon it. But one thing that I also suggest that we have to look, there's a group here called Engineers Without Borders. Okay.
Engineers Without Borders.
Yes, Engineers Without Borders. In many big universities in the USA, they have student branches. What they do is they take upon a project such as this in a third world country. These are students, they raise the money themselves. They raise their money for travel. They actually go and build a borehole. Okay, it's not just borehole. They do other projects that are community projects. So that's something that we can partner with. We can partner with, reach to different universities, and I can give you some information. I've been trying to create one of those chapters at my university, but my university is smaller. But many universities have branches of Engineers Without Borders. They always have like a professional branch and also a student branch. But they go out, whatever it is, they build bridges, they build water supply systems. This borehole is a great idea. Again, they raise the money themselves, they raise their money for travel, and they go to that destination, stay there for one summer, and they execute the project.
Awesome. And Nielsen, before I hand over to you, Dr. Wap, thank you so much for that information. I am going to put you on the spot right now on the air. We need you to help look over all the proposals we're going to be getting, so you can advise us. But I can assure you the system we're putting together, we're not going to just throw money away. We have 3 minutes to go, so I'll hand over to our host. Dr. Wap, I'm not waiting for your response, because as one of the benefits of having you as an older brother, you have never said no to me in half a decade of my life, so I know you will not start now. So Nielsen, I'm going to hand over to you so we can take our turn and just round up with today's discussion.
Thank you very much. Water is life. L'eau, c'est la vie. Donc, Africaonline Media Corporation organise le 6 septembre prochain un collecte de fonds pour construire des points d'eau en Afrique. Donc, that's all I can say for now in French. And our main guest, Professor Fomunung, please, your last word on transportation and telecommunications in Africa.
So long as the state of roads and telecommunications or transportation in Africa remains where it is today, it's going to continue to undermine our development. So it is crucial that we do all we can to develop transportation on the continent. That's my final word.
Thank you very much. Professor Agrippa, your last word, transportation and telecommunications on the continent.
Yes, I love this group, to be honest with you. This is the best group. Dr. Fomunung, thank you for your suggestion about approaching some of the universities. You just gave me a new idea. I've been at UCLA for 31 years. We have a very good engineering department at UCLA. So as we were talking, my brain was running, faster. So I think I'm going to approach UCLA. I've never heard of Engineer Without Borders. I heard about Doctors Without Borders, but not Engineering Without Borders. So thank you very much for coming up. You are now my brother, so you can't run away from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna do some research, but because of the COVID-19, I don't know what I'm going to find out. But tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that I contact some of my friends in that department to see if they can direct us, to see if they can help us raise money for Operation Borehole in Africa. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Ambassador, I was not ignoring you, just that I was going with the males first this time. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Go ahead.
Not a problem. I want to thank him as well, because I never heard Engineers Without Borders, but when I started looking it up, I started getting ideas as well. I don't have a lot to say because we only have 1 more minute. I love this group as well. You be blessed. And I am continuing to lift up our African nations and my, as I sit here and I pray for the government. And now I know what the cost of boreholes is going to be looking at. That's going to be the amount that I'm going to be laying before the Lord. And if we can tie 10% of the cost of a borehole, if we can sow that amount in our donation, I believe God will give us the increase that we're looking for. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you very much. Evelyn, please, I know you won't go away until the show is over.
No, just to thank you all, and especially Dr. Hope for the very last inputs that he made. So we really appreciate, and we'll work with him. We'll share the proposal as I've said. The generic proposal and the bill of quantities for his review. And also I've heard of Doctors Without Borders. Today I've learned about Engineers Without Borders. Me too. So it's really fine. We shall all explore that. Thank you.
Is Reverend Solange still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Your last word, please. Your last word.
Yeah, no, we have just 1 second. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we learn new things every day on this forum. And thanks for learning about engineering. While we're talking, I text someone in Cameroon that I know does borehole all over Cameroon. I know I've really been absent for the past couple of weeks, but there were just circumstances beyond my control. But I'm back. And talk of transportation, I almost lost my life in Cameroon twice because of bad roads and so many other things. That's another topic for another day. And thank God, you know, we're moving forward. Borehole 55, it is, come September 6th. Join in.
Thank you so much. Our chair.
Yes, I am just so excited. Dr. Watt brought tears to my eyes. I'm going to be calling him. I don't know if you've had lunch, but I'm going to take your time right after this show. We are going to get this thing done, and we are going to work with Engineers Without Borders. I never heard of them either, but I am really, really excited. And you are part of Africa's brain bank because you are the biggest brain I know, you know, on this earth. This guy is so smart. It's ridiculous. I mean, I am smart too, but I don't know why all the genes went to him. So, let me just stop right there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today.
But before you leave, one more thing. I mean, Dr. Fan, I just Google Engineer Without Borders. Now UCLA pop up.
Okay.
Wow,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, a big school like UCLA will surely have one.
We have UCLA Engineer Without Borders. And all these 31 years I've never been. So thank you. I just have to cut you. So go ahead.
Thank you. Time constraints. Time constraints. Next Sunday, I know the chair did not say it, but I would say it. We're going to be discussing.
Oh, no, let me say it. That's fine. It's our show. We control the time. This is important. Yes, I'm going to extend the show by 5 minutes. We need to talk about this. I got so excited and emotional about the healthcare facilities. Couple of things, Dr. Wab, the healthcare facilities, while they have water, as like our administrator said, they will have an operating agreement with them. It's not going to be projects as usual. This is a lifetime project. We're going to monitor it, you know, and we actually have a team member that is going to be providing security for the water. But next week, we're going to be talking about waterborne diseases. That's what we're going to be talking about starting tomorrow. Again, coronavirus, they're telling everybody and COVID-19 to wash hands with what? People don't have water to eat. They don't have, to drink. They don't have water to cook. They don't have water to bathe. Then how are they going to have water to wash their hands? You know, so all the PPEs, they are good, but water, nothing replaces water. So we're going to be talking about that near song. So it's our show and it's unscripted, so we can go beyond time.
Thank you so much. So we'll be seeing you beginning tonight because we'll be posting information from tonight or tomorrow morning. Please stay tuned. Be with Africaonline Media Corporation. We are grateful for every single word that we utter on this program and every single thing we do. Thank you all very much and see you next week. Bye for now.
Yes, and I'm going to post this on Facebook, you know. Yes. All right.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye. Niasong, I need you to end the call because you are the host. I need you to end it. Click end.
Oh, okay, all right. I was not working with a mouse. That's my problem. So.
No, click end because I couldn't stream because I